I'm going to go through a series of slides pretty quickly because I've only got 5 minutes. But actually what I should really be doing is taking you for a walk outside. And if you get a chance at lunchtime, go and have a look around the park. And that'd be much more fun than sitting in a classroom. Okay, great. This is the master plan for the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, which will be built out over the next 10 years in terms of housing something in the range of 8,000 homes to go in the park. So the parklands will start to disappear. And actually we'll build a real community around the park. And I recognise in the 5 minutes that I'm going to give that the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park's got a number of advantages over other parks in the country at the moment. One, we're brand new. Secondly, we've had a huge amount of investment. And thirdly, it's specifically designed with the park at the heart of what we're doing. That said, the few things I'm going to be touching on have been tried either elsewhere in the UK and or abroad. And prior to coming here, I was chief exec of the Royal Parks. And in some way, over the 7 years that I was there, they tried and tested some of these one way or another. The first thing I wanted to say was around being opportunistic. We planned to open the park on the 27th of July 2013 in the north, a year to the day from the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. Then on the 12th of December, in 2012, we had an opportunity to put concerts in the park, and we then had basketball arena sat just behind us here, but actually a site which will be developed for housing, and the work will start on that later this year, free and available. And so we agreed to do, we brought our opening forward by a month, and did 19 major events in the park, including in the stadium, which otherwise was going to lie fallow for 2 years. Got 700,000 people into those events and found a way of managing them to break even, and went from a position where we were under threat of being told what's happening in the Olympic Park to something like 10,000 pieces of positive news correspondence about what we've been doing in terms of the events and so on. And gave everyone the opportunity to come back to the park, to enjoy it, and to put the park back on the map. Next thing I wanted to talk about was a couple of the venues, the Copper Box Arena and the Aquatic Centre. It's people who run venues with water and so on. You'll realise that they never really pay for themselves. So I just wanted to say that cross-subsidy is one of the things that we're doing here. So actually the Copper Box cross-subsidises the Aquatic Centre. And for parks, that can be the same. If we take Hyde Park, actually it's a net contributor to the Royal Park's income. And similarly in Sydney, if you went to Centennial Parklands, actually they've given up part of the parkland so they can subsidise other parts of the park. Others are going to touch and go into volunteering in more detail, so I just touch on it. Actually, I think one of the great shames is actually the amount of people who volunteered, and that's never really been followed through on. We had a number of volunteers in the park during the summer, and we're looking to build the number of volunteers that we have across the park and get them really involved. But actually, those 70,000 people, they had an event from here during the summer, and we had about 15,000 people turn up. And I think actually there is a well of opportunity there that people can grasp. This building, which we designed as being specifically this part of the park, because the village will be the first people that has residents. The first area that we're building out will be immediately behind here, and so actually we saw this as being a real part of that community. And it was designed so that as well as the community rooms and the cafe, we built the playground next door. And then to touch on one theme is we got £1 million of charity funding to build out that playground from London Marathon Charitable Trust. And we do have our own charity as well, the Legacy List, which helps supports the Olympic Park. But it was specifically designed, the playground, to run from toddlers through to teenagers. And we put the toddler play at this end, so mum and dad will have a coffee, and the teenager play is away at the far end, and then they get up to as much mischief as they like in the park. So actually we thought about the honey pot that we wanted to create and the design and the shape of it in thinking about how we were going to relate these two things. The southern part of the park, which isn't open yet, it'll be announced later this week. The date it'll open. It'll open in April before the Easter holidays. I'm probably not allowed to tell you the exact date, but unless you twist my arm. But if you look at that, where we've got the ArcelorMittal Orbit, and we're building another cafe and another playground down there. Again, it's about, and I think it was Morden Hall Park that Peter was referring to, about grouping things to create a honeypot where people come for a primary spend. Actually, they bought a ticket to go up the Orbit, but actually thinking about what the secondary spend is, the gift shop and the cafe and so on when you've got them there. And then I wanted to say something about sponsorship and pouring rights and so on. But I'm sort of conscious of time and I don't want to go into that too much because I've got 1 minute left. What I do want to say though is the challenge for the Olympic Park isn't about the park. It isn't about making sure that we can make the money work. It is about convergence and ensuring that the life opportunities for the people who live around the park and who come to live around the park will be changed. A number of you may know the statistics that as you get on the Jubilee line at Westminster, you lose a year of your life for every station you go through until you get off at Stratford. That's why we're doing it. It's about jobs, it's about opportunity, it's about life enhancement for people. And as the parkland starts to disappear and we move from being able to do events and so on, actually we'll get a graph that starts to look like this, because one of the things that we have enacted is an estate charge. So there will be a charge of around £1 per square foot on every residential property and every commercial property in the park, in recognition of the value that the park brings and that they will well benefit from the quality of the park that remains. Thank you.